Hey there and welcome. You ever find yourself scrolling through the news and just wondering how journalists do it? I mean, how they get a full, detailed story out just minutes after something happens? Well, today, we're going to pull back that curtain.
Seriously, think about it for a second. Whether it's a local town fair or a huge global event, the stories always have this familiar feel to them, right? They're fast, they're packed with facts, and they all seem to follow the same kind of pattern. How on earth do they manage that, day after day?
Well, here's the secret. It isn't some kind of crazy journalistic magic. It's actually a time-tested formula. A blueprint, really. It lets reporters take a chaotic bunch of facts and turn them into a clear, easy-to-read story every single time. And today, we're going to crack that code together. So here's our game plan. First, we'll crack the news code itself. Then, we'll get into the 6 essential questions that are the absolute bedrock of any news story. After that, we'll look at the famous inverted pyramid blueprint. We're even going to write a story together. And then, we'll wrap it all up with the journalist's final checklist. All right, let's jump right in with Section 1, Cracking the News Code. This is all about changing how we see news writing, moving away from the idea that it's a mystery and seeing it for what it is, a clear, repeatable method.
Okay, so if it's a method, what's it built on? That brings us to Section 2, answering the 6 questions. You see, at the absolute heart of every single news story are these fundamental building blocks. Get these right, and you're already halfway home.
And they go by a pretty famous name, the 5 W's and 1 H. A news story is basically considered incomplete until a reader can walk away knowing the answer to every single one of these. They're the non-negotiable foundation of good reporting.
So what are these essential questions? Well, they're actually the ones your brain automatically asks anyway. First up, who was involved? Then, what happened? That's the main event. When did it happen? You need that time and date. Where did it take place? Location is key. And then the two that sometimes need a little more work. Why did it happen? What was the reason? And finally, how did it all go down?
So, you've got your answers to the who, what, where, when, why, and how. Now what? You can't just throw them on a page, and that's where our blueprint comes in. Section 3, the inverted pyramid. This is the gold standard for structuring a story to make sure it hits with maximum impact.
The idea behind the inverted pyramid is so simple, but it's absolutely brilliant. It started way back in the days of the telegraph during the Civil War. Reporters had to get the most important info, like who won the battle, out first, just in case the telegraph line got cut. And that same thinking works perfectly today. Journalists know you're busy. They know you might only read the first paragraph. This structure guarantees you get the most important stuff right up front. And here's exactly how it works. At the very top, the widest part of the pyramid, you've got the lead. That's your first paragraph. And its only job is to pack in all those 5 W's and 1 H. Then you have the body, where you add the juicy details, quotes, and some background. And way down at the bottom, the little pointy end, that's the tail. That's where you put the general info, the less crucial stuff that's nice to have but not essential.
Okay, enough with the theory, right? Let's see how this thing actually works in the wild. For Section 4, we're going to put this whole formula into action. We'll take a real news event and break it down piece by piece using the exact blueprint we've been talking about.
So for our example, we're looking at a classic annual story out of Nepal, the huge wave of people leaving the capital, Kathmandu, to go home for the Dashain festival. This is a perfect one to use because it happens every year, it's full of data, and it affects a ton of people.
Now, before we even show you the headline, I want you to focus on just one number, a really big number, that is the absolute core of this story, 190,000. Just keep that figure in your head.
And there it is. Look at that headline. It's short, it's punchy, and it tells you everything you need to know to get hooked. You immediately know the who, almost 190,000 people, and the what. They left Kathmandu. Perfect.
Now for the lead paragraph, the top of our pyramid. Let's check the boxes, shall we? Who? Close to 190,000 people. What? Departed the valley. When? In the past 5 days, starting September 17th. Where? Kathmandu Valley. Why? To celebrate Dashain. And how? In a mass exodus. Boom. All 6 questions answered in 2 sentences. It's that efficient.
So after that powerful lead, we move down the pyramid into the body. This is where we add some meat to the bones. A quote like this one from a top police official does a few things. It adds authority, it gives a key detail, almost 5,000 officers deployed, and it makes the whole story more credible. This is a perfect body paragraph.
All right, the story is written, the structure is solid, but a real pro isn't done yet. For our last section, we're going to run through the mental checklist that journalists use to take their story from good to great.
Here are 4 golden rules. Number 1, be objective. Stick to the facts. Leave your opinions out of it. 2, use simple language. You want everyone to understand, so ditch the jargon. 3, and this one is huge, check your facts. Double-check every name, date, and number. And finally, a great pro tip, read your story out loud. It's the best way to catch awkward sentences and make sure it all flows.
So, there you have it. The secret code, the blueprint, the final checklist. It's a formula that's all about turning chaotic events into clear information. The next time you're reading a story, I bet you'll see it. You'll spot the inverted pyramid. You'll identify the 5 W's and 1 H in that first paragraph. So the real question now is, knowing how it's all put together, will you ever read the news the same way again?